This will be, again, something a little bit different. I'm actually doing the entire build and finish video all in one for the little Fiat. So, I could sit here and talk about this little kit, but you know what? We saw the unboxing in the previous video, so let's just go ahead and get into how I put it together and what I did with it. All right, getting started. So, I had mentioned during the unboxing I was considering swapping this to a right-hand drive. I was recently in Scotland and hired a car to drive around the West Coast, and I was given a Fiat 500. Obviously, it wasn't this one. It was a later version. The interior would be different. If I were to swap this and I really wanted to try and duplicate this to make it look like the one that I'd hired, I'd pretty much have to replace this entire piece. And I think that's a little more in depth than I want to go. So I'm going to not do that. I will go ahead and do this as a left-hand drive. Just take it like this and build it as is. And we'll just sort of run with that. I will go ahead and swap out the color though. This is actually the inside interior of the car that I'd hired. Right. But I think what I'll do is I'll match the color in the interior to that, and then we'll kind of go from there. So let's go ahead and get started. Doing the suspension is pretty straightforward. Just follow the instructions, a couple of little small detail pieces, but it's not that hard if you just follow the instructions. The next thing that I'm doing is I am trying to do an interior, or at least giving the look of one. I use this adhesive, this basically scenic base adhesive. It's essentially a strong PVA glue, and paint that down. And then we're going to follow up with fine flock, which is a scenic base flock for simulated very, very fine grass or whatever. And I use this for building scenic bases and so forth. And I have seen this done from other car modelers to give the illusion of a carpeted surface. So I wanted to try this because I've never done this before. So I go through and I'm working in sections because I found that the glue does dry a bit quicker than I would like. So when I lay this down without laying on big puddles of the stuff, so I'll just go through in sections so that it'll be tacky, and then I can lay this flock down. And theoretically, when I'm done, I'll have a surface that's textured that will look like a carpet. Obvious in the previous section that I made a technical error. I don't have this brown in hairy brush color, so it's a spray. Then I realized I can't really touch up the seat, so in order to color the carpet, once I laid that down, I was going to need to hairy brush it, and well, that's just a pain in the butt. So what I have done is it's dried. I've sealed it with some matte coat. I'm going to go back over and hit this all again now that I've masked off the back seat with black again, so that we can turn that carpet into black. We'll see how that ends up coming out. And after having painted it, I can see about taking this off. There we go. I can hairy brush that bit. Let's see if I can get this off here. There we go. All right. So, okay. Probably could have used a bit finer flock, but for this being the first time I did that, I'm kind of content with it. I can go back, I can hairy brush that little bit right there, and because I've got to touch up a couple spots there in the back anyway. But overall, hey, look, for something you're pretty much not going to see, okay. And that's just with the seats on. Not bad, not bad. It'll do, it'll do. Not happy with the seams, but I'll roll with it again. All right, I'm moving on. Next step, doing this piece really doesn't look like much. And again, I'm going with basic black, but I did go through And I've hit this with black gray. And then I also highlighted with a dry brush the instrument, come on, mouth. So like the high points of this so that you can actually see them. That transfer right there, real pain in the tail, but it went on. Just doing a little bit of a high brush there. Actually got that to come out too. So got this much done. I also did with the pedals. I don't think it was even worth it with the pedals, but I did it anyway. So now we'll just go ahead and we'll take this, put the rest of this together. So I think it's this, when we go through, the seats are on. We get this much in, and I think we're going to be pretty close. If we can see it, there we go. So, all right, let's go ahead and get that much done, and it looks like we're quickly getting to where we need to be. So we'll get that done and move on. All right, so we got the main interior done. I did fight with that transfer that I was mentioning for the stick shift. Ended up fighting with it to the point where it disappeared. So I put a little bit of paint and just hairy brush update to fix that. I do need to fix this up here before I go ahead and put the top on. That also is loose. But need to let that dry out. But you can see what the interior looks like. And that's pretty much, there's really not much to this model, right? So moved on to these steps. We got this far. We put, so we put the window in, and I put there we go. So we put the window in, I put the rear view mirror in, painted the rear light. I do need to put this on now, which I am going to do now. I'm hoping I didn't screw that up by putting that on light, because it looks like that should have gone in underneath. Now that I think about it, that might be a problem, but we'll find out here in a moment. This is the fun part of watching me actually do a kit. You can see where I mess up. All right, so I have put these pieces on. Now what I have not put on is clear parts, which is what's coming next. And I have those clear parts set aside. Here we go. So these clear parts here, which I have. Now, I'm going to call this out. I painted all of these, the whole thing, one color. And here's something I noticed. They want you to put the outer part, make the outer part red, the inner part clear, right? But you'll notice the orange part is supposed to be there, so it doesn't quite work out that way. So what I did do is I just painted it all red. I'm just going to drop it in like that, and then that'll be it. So I'm going to get myself the good stuff. By good stuff, I mean stuff that won't mess things up as much as everything else. What I also did is I painted this and gloss coated it before I put everything together. So I did all of that part before I got to this point. I'm taking micro crystal clear, which is basically thick PVA. I'm going to drop this bad boy in there. This is the first time I've used clear Tamiya paint. I don't like it. But like I said, what should have happened is I should have left that part clear so that orange part could have come out. But I failed to do so. And so that's just the price I've got to pay. In that it's not, the orange isn't going to come out the way I would like it to. But again, this is This is a learning model, by the way, in case anybody hasn't figured that part out already. Well, it should be painfully obvious to pretty much everybody watching. Figuring out how to do car models, which I do not do. I've only really done one. That was a GT40. So I've got that much done. And the license plate, which is A6. There it is. I can get that bad boy here. That part. Clean it up just a wee bit. And I will leave that as is because I actually trimmed off that. So what I'll do is I'll just drop that bad boy there. Yep. Take a little bit of Revel Contacta. Don't need much for this. I'm not a big fan of Revel Contacta. Just for many reasons, but this will do what I need it to. And we'll put on the transfer later. Get that oriented. There we go. So we'll put on the transfer, and that will take care of the back. I'll put that piece on last too. And it says, hey, put on this piece, which is, I actually have that painted up and drying. And we'll move on to the front. Okay. At this point, I am almost finished. We have the transfers to put on, and there's a bunch of, so essentially there really isn't much, right, as far as transfers to go. There's this one here, this one on the front, and then the number plates. But there's those two. I don't know where those go. I would imagine those go somewhere, but I don't see them. I'll look through the... You know what? I think those belonged over the speakers. Let's take a look at this real quick, because I think that's where I missed them. And if I did miss them, they're not going to get put on. All right, so here's a question. Well, not a question, but a statement. So, if we look at the instructions here, right? These, I don't see where they go. I don't see. I would have thought that maybe they go over the speakers, which are here and here, here and here. But I don't see them in the instructions, right? I don't see them anywhere else, and I don't see them called out. So when I look at the final assembly part, they're really only calling out that one there, that one which goes over the back part, and then the number plates. Interesting. So that's number 7, which is this guy right there. Interesting. All right, well, I'm just going to do those, and then I'm going to call that fin. And yeah, so here, right? This, remember when I was mentioning the way the colors are being shown, I missed that too. And going that I have I'm going to head with full red, just is what it is. So those of you who are experienced with this car, I apologize, but this is me learning car. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get the number plates on, and then we'll go from there. And then we'll be pretty close to calling this one finished. Not overly enthusiastic with the gloss that I have. It's tester's gloss, but it's not the really high gloss stuff that I had for when I did the GT40. I need to find that again someday. But for now, this will do. Well, that ended up being a little less than I anticipated. Thought there would be more to it. I guess I guess I was caught up in some of the other car builds I've done that were a lot more involved, especially like the GT40. This was, I didn't expect it to be sort of a little weekend build, but it was a little weekend build. It was kind of neat. Caught a few things that I did not expect, like what I had to do with the taillights, some of the work I had to do inside. You know, the work I had done inside, really, you really can't see much of any of it, right? You know, there's really not a whole lot. I am glad I did take the time to put the little daub of red paint and the gear shift mark on there, because you can see that, but that's about the only thing you can see. I am glad I did not try to make it a right-hand drive. I think it would have been more than what I'm capable of at the moment. Otherwise, yeah, this is a fun little build. All right, so this little, I know there's like a 1/16 scale, which is far more complex and complicated, and what I understand, incredibly frustrating. But for me, this is sort of a fun, I don't want to say nostalgia, but it was sort of a little reminder. Like I said, it's a car I had hired when I was in Scotland, and it's not the same car, but it's close enough. So it'll sit on my shelf and it'll make me happy. So I'll take a couple of pictures, put these up here. For those of you who are interested in this little Italeri 1/24 Fiat, that was it. That's what's involved. And I mean, feel free. Anybody who wants to offer suggestion hints, please feel free to post them down below. I always read them. I just ask that you be, respectful and suggestive for good ideas. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and I hope that this was at least moderately entertaining. And happy modeling, everybody.